Okay, let's go ahead and get started today. My name is Clint. I'm the president of the Red Oak Chamber of Commerce, and I am joined by Dr. Karen Finn. She is one of our members of the chamber, one of our board members on the ambassadors committee. But specifically, what we're going to be talking about today is her company. Her company is called KJ Content Marketing, and she does a lot with how to market your business, and that's what we really want to get into here is how to create an online marketing plan as we're looking at 2021. So, Dr. Karen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Clint. It's always a pleasure to talk about something that I have so much fun with. And online marketing is just a joy to share with other people because I know it can help them grow their businesses.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah. And we're looking forward to, I'm going to be taking notes as well. I think there's some things that the chamber can really use some great pointers on as well.
Well, let me kind of dive into this. And Clint, I'm definitely going to put you on the spot later on because I would love to use the chamber as an example to help people really get the gist of what I'm talking about. Because you know how sometimes theory is one way and actually doing it something else. So hopefully this will hit the mark so everybody will get something really valuable from it. The way I teach content marketing to my clients is to look at it in just three basic steps. The first one is, really a discussion about what is content marketing. The second is, what do you need to communicate? And then the third is, when do you actually do all this communicating? So we're going to start with the first one. And what is content marketing online, right? So online specifically refers to any channels like Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or your website or your newsletter, anything that's digital that you're using to share your content. It could even be a podcast. So when you think about online marketing, the purpose of it is to share your company's brand, products, services to not only its current customers or clients, but potential customers and clients. And that's a really big deal. I see a lot of folks decide that they're only marketing to prospective clients, right? And they forget that they're marketing all the time to their current clients because marketing is all about growing relationships. So if we look at the two things that we need for online marketing, you need to choose channels, right? So it can be, as I mentioned, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, right? All the typical things we think of as social media. It can be YouTube, which is where folks are going to be finding this video, right? This is another way that the chamber is doing some online marketing is through video. It can include your website and your newsletter. Clint, can you think of anything else that might be an online channel?
Well, I mean, we're seeing you kind of mentioned, just all the different social medias, and we're seeing a resurgence in Instagram, especially with some of our local chambers around us. It's just that simple, hey, posting a picture with a small description.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about a lot of the social media is it has a very specific demographic. So one of the things that I work with my clients on is choosing which social media platforms are the best for their business. Because, for example, Facebook is really pretty casual, right? It's meant primarily for businesses who market to consumers, directly to consumers, so B2C businesses. Whereas LinkedIn, if you think about it, LinkedIn is more about B2B or business to business, right? So you can kind of choose the platforms that are most appropriate to your business based on who it is that you're trying to interact with. Now, the types of content, this really can confuse people a whole lot because, well, I could do blog posts, I could do memes, I could do videos, I could do podcasts, I could do an ebook, I could do a webinar, right? There's all different kinds of things that you can do online. And I like to think of it as kind of, there are three main things that you can do with your online marketing as far as content. You can do memes. Memes are basically, you know, a picture with some words on it to kind of describe something, and the picture helps set the mood for what the words are. You can do blogs, right? And blogs can easily expand into ebooks or something else, but blog is really kind of the basic component. The other basic component is video. And I say that it's a basic component because digitally, when you record a video, you can strip out the visual part and be left with just the audio part. So you can take the basic building block of a video and you can create GIFs or GIFs, depending on who you want to listen to, is how you pronounce that word, right? You can create your podcast. You can create sections of your video or sections of your podcast to be just little blips that you can share as breakdown. So with the 3 different types of content, you can create all kinds of different content. Clint, what are some of the types of content that you use for chamber communication right now?
So the biggest thing, and in a lot of ways, we kind of go a little more simple than kind of some of the things we even talked about, but we do utilize the memes from time to time. Utilizing video specifically, something that we've been trying to move toward and work toward a little more. But we've talked about that and we haven't really gotten there yet. But I love the idea of focusing on the video with the idea of stripping out and maybe making that a podcast. Yeah. And we've talked about utilizing our radio show that we do every week and kind of posting that, having that as a weekly podcast. And I think that's a great option that we really need to look into.
And with the radio show, I have clients who also have a radio show and they record them doing the radio show. So they wind up with a video of it as well.
Okay.
So that's another potential expansion of how you're already doing things.
Absolutely. We need to definitely look into that. Or work on that more, I guess I should say.
Well, there's only so much time and priorities are important.
Right.
So the next slide is really an opportunity for everyone who's listening to this to pause and think about what are the online channels that your company uses. In fact, I even recommend that you pull out a piece of paper or pull out your notepad and just start writing what those channels are. And go ahead and put us on pause while you do that. Okay, well, hopefully you've had a chance to list the online channels that your business uses. And we're ready for the next piece of content here for you to create. And that is that I'd like for you to list the content types that your company is most comfortable with. The reason for that being phrased exactly like that is I want your first marketing plan for your online presence to be simple and doable. So if I throw something at you with, write down all the ebooks you want to create, write down all the blog posts you want to create, it'll create a whole bunch of resistance. So I'd love for it to be something easy that you can do. And Clint said some of the stuff that he's already doing, right, which is memes. He's got his newsletter that goes out and he does the radio show, right? What are the things that are most easy for you and your business to get out there? And we'll pause again while you write that down. Well, hopefully you took that pause and you actually did write down the content that you're most comfortable with writing. So the next piece is we need to figure out what you need to communicate to your audience. The thing that you always need to remember when you're creating any type of content is that whoever's reading it is most interested about themselves. They aren't really interested in your business unless you're a Kardashian. I guess lots of people are interested in what the Kardashians are doing or were doing. I guess they're off the air. I don't really know. But For most of us, right, when people get something from us, they want to know how it applies to them. So although I know that we all have product promotions that we want to let people know about, sales, right? Like it's now, mid-December, and so Black Friday's just passed. Cyber Monday's just passed. Yesterday, was getting emails about free shipping Monday. I'd never heard of that before, but I guess it's a thing.
That's
Yeah. So there's always something, right? There's always something that's going on. And then you also have events, right? For the chamber, right? We have luncheons, we have the golf tournament, we have the Founders Day, we have board meetings, we have the auction, we have scholarships that we try to get out every year. We have all kinds of really wonderful things that Clint allows us to participate in and help get the word out and really build this community of ours. So it's important to know that with whatever you do, you may have a motive for your business, but the communication is always aimed at what your intended market will get out of it, what your audience will get out of it. So we're at another time for you to take a break and think about what you need to communicate to your audience. What do you need to promote? And I'd like for you to look at what sales that you want to run throughout the year or throughout the quarter, whatever makes most sense to you to bite off right now as part of your plan. What are the events that happen in that same time frame? And what product or service promotions need to happen? And we'll go ahead and pause again so that y'all can put us on pause, and then we'll pick up. All right. Well, hopefully you've taken the time that you needed to figure out what are the main things that you need to promote. And our next step to think about is, when do you need to publish? So marketing, as I mentioned before, is all about growing relationships with your current and your potential customers, which means you always want to be thinking about things from their perspective and what will best serve them. And some of the questions you can ask yourself to help you figure out when you need to publish things are, what are the important dates to your customers? Are there specific holidays that are important to them? Are your customers parents, and so they're worried about when school starts? Are there important dates in your business that you need to make sure? So events would drive these important dates. And then you need to start thinking about how much advance notice you need to provide for each of these important dates, not just the ones that are important to your business, but I want you to think about how much advance notice you need to give to your customers too. For example, everybody knows Black Friday happens the Friday after Thanksgiving, okay? But do you just want to let folks know on that Friday that you're having a tremendous sale? Or do you want to start letting them know a couple weeks in advance? Black Friday's coming. You can start anticipating this, that, and the other thing, right? So you have to figure out what pacing, so you can start building enough knowledge of what you have coming up. Because let's face it, very few people will see everything you post on any social media platform if you only post once, right? Not everybody's opening up your newsletters or emails, right? So you need to be repetitive, and you need to add lead time to any important date. So I've been talking a lot. Hopefully you got some good ideas, and I'd like to have you press pause again now while you answer these questions and kind of think about what dates are most important to your business. Okay, so now that you've rolled up your sleeves and gotten this basic information down, it's time to create your plan. You already know where, what, and when you're going to post. You've started thinking about your time frame. So you can pull out a brand new sheet of paper or a spreadsheet or a calendar, and you can start plotting out when you need to publish, which content, and where it needs to be published. So y'all can stop right now if you're ready to just get after that. But if you'd like to have a little bit more idea of what this type of work looks like and how I go through this stuff with my clients, Clint has very generously been voluntold that he's going to be our guinea pig for the conversation today. Clint, thank you so much for your willingness to play along with us, and so that everyone can have an example of how to kind of work through this.
Absolutely. No, I do appreciate it. And, one of the challenges that we've talked about here at the chamber that we've had to face this year, of course, is I no longer have an assistant. So, it's always better having 2 or 3 heads working on something rather than just one. And so I definitely appreciate the opportunity to kind of go through this and talk about our methodology and how we can improve upon it.
Well, hopefully we'll uncover some things that you'll feel really great about tackling, and it will provide a wonderful example for other folks.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Okay. So the first questions that we went through was kind of the channels. What are the online channels that we're working with right here? And from what I'm familiar with, Clint, I think that the 4 main ones that the chamber uses, and please correct me, it's Facebook, it's the website, it's the newsletter, and it's Google My Business.
Yes. I would, in order of I guess focus, I would maybe switch website, newsletter. I think Facebook kind of does lead the charge for us, and then we really focus on our newsletter. Our website, we do update and we do put the calendar items there, but that's not one that, from a traffic standpoint, I don't necessarily focus as much time as I should there. And then Google My Business is something that I definitely need to work on in general, because that's kind of foreign waters for me. So I need some definite help there.
Well, and Google My Business, you're not alone. I have a Google My Business page, and I don't give it as much love as it really needs either. So as I said earlier, there's only so many there are only so many hours in the day, and you have to kind of go after the big fish first, and before you start worrying about other things. So absolutely. It makes perfect sense to me. Now, the next thing I asked folks to do was to figure out the important dates. And so what I did was I created this little calendar with kind of the big important dates, not only to the chamber itself, but also just to the community in general. So this is just really simple. I actually started off with a piece of paper where I would jot this down. And Clint, is there anything on here that you would add to or take away from? I mean, what else do you see here?
No, I think I think this is a great start. It does mix in kind of some of the chamber big ones, our 4 major events. Obviously, we're still working on creating some more events, so we don't necessarily have those dates as of yet. But I think that does kind of encompass what we're looking for and how we want to prepare. And you bring up a great point. We don't want to ignore the significance of some of these other events, be it the Valentine's, New Year's, the different things across the board. And even from a marketing chamber promotion aspect, I mean, that's something we should be getting out and saying, hey, Happy New Year, happy this, happy that. And, or, finding ways to encapsulate that as well, not just our events.
Yeah. Well, what I think could also work for a lot of the membership is, if these dates are important to them, right, then it may be a wonderful time to do an email blast, right? And you may also be able to help the membership to recognize it. Hey, an email blast about Valentine's Day for all the florists might be a really wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's actually something we've been talking about, thinking about is you look across our chamber, our small little town of Red Oak here, we actually have 3 florists.
I
As
know, it's so lovely.
I know, that's awesome. That's awesome. And all of them kind of have their own quirks and ideas and whatnot, but they all, I love working with each and every one of them. And how do we promote them? How do we talk about them? I mean, because that is our mission at the chamber, right? It's promoting the businesses that are our members. So how
Yeah.
do we encapsulate that for our Valentine's Day?
Yeah. So this is another reason why I'm so thankful, Clint, that you agreed to kind of be the guinea pig to talk through this stuff with, because the chamber's in a really unique position, since it definitely has clients and customers that it's trying to serve, right? The entire community, the business community, right? But then it also is a conduit for other businesses to access to help get their messages out as well. So when we can look at it from the multiple angles, I just think it's a very rich discussion. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Glad to do it. And yeah, and you touched on it exactly, because it's the business to business connections, but the business to consumer also.
Mm-hmm.
On the very simple description of the chamber, hey, we're a marketing agency. Yes and no. So there's a lot more to that. I mean, that root core is kind of, I guess, what you could describe it as, but there's so many different facets involved with that.
Yeah, it's a very rich organization, multifaceted.
Yes.
So the next step is one that I typically suggest, instead of looking at everything as a big conglomerate, because I think people tend to be more comfortable with one particular methodology for getting messages out than another. So Facebook, I know most people are pretty comfortable with. So I've created just a very rough first half of the month, look at what needs to happen for Facebook. And all you would do is you just create the calendar or a spreadsheet if you're more of a spreadsheet person. Mm-hmm. And you say, okay, what needs to happen on each day? And what events are plugged in here already that I need to count back from to start marketing? So I just threw this out as an example here. But on New Year's Day, you might want to say Happy New Year from the chamber to you, right? So everybody kind of has an idea of, hey, it may be New Year's Day, but the chamber's still thinking about all of us. And isn't that cool?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Something simple like that helps encapsulate that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I know the board meeting isn't something that everybody attends, right? It's for the board members.
Correct.
And that was the other event that I captured early in the month. What other things can you think of that would make sense to start with marketing on Facebook for the first half of January?
So there's a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's interesting that we've talked about with the chamber, you've talked about the meme aspect, and just getting some message out there and getting some things going out there. One of the things that I've been looking at recently and want to start utilizing more is, you look at the calendar and there's these national days of everything now, right? There's such this huge, I mean, it's huge. I mean, all the different things that are going on. And actually, while we were talking, I got thinking about that, and I pulled it up just to look kind of what some of the days are that are coming up that are national days in January. And one that pops up that right off the top that I think is very important that we need to highlight is January 9th is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day.
Oh, that's a great one.
And so again, something that's not on a normal calendar, but that's huge. I mean, the folks that protect us, and I mean, we have a great relationship with the folks here in Red Oak, and why not allow that to be part of our marketing plan? Is, hey, we appreciate all their work that they do for us. So I think that's one right on the surface. As far as other things going on with the chamber, as far as how we're looking at things, some of these are more members only, and I want you to kind of speak to this a little bit too, Karen, as well. we've got some kind of member only type things. And what I mean by that is, we're starting to work on a directory.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to sell the ads for that, kind of do those things like that. But then, as we're looking at the year, we've been talking to our businesses, hey, let's build a yearly marketing plan around your sponsorships. What are the options with that? And I don't know, this is just maybe a personal thing with me. I feel like our members only type stuff is better served in the email, not so much on the Facebook aspect. I try to keep Facebook more the public face. I mean, what are your thoughts when it kind of comes to that?
Well, it can be both, because what you can do on Facebook, even though it's the public facing for the chamber, you can say, hey, members, check out the latest email. It has all the details about X, Y, and Z, right? Okay. Because then it lets the public face know that, oh, if I'm a member, then there's other stuff going on for me too.
Right.
Okay. So it kind of plants that seed there. And with the emails, right, we know that not everybody opens every email that they receive. I don't think it's just me.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that too. And actually, that's where Constant Contact has a great built-in opportunity. After every email that we send, it pops up with a web link. And so even our calendars, that could be something that's a Facebook. Hey, let's put this on Facebook. This is our calendar coming up for this week.
Yeah. So they really can work together. And although, we're talking about each of these online channels separately, I love that you're immediately seeing how they're connected, because they really are. It's just, I find that people, especially when they're trying to do DIY, like everybody listening to this is trying to do, that the easier it is, the more likely it is that they'll successfully complete the task.
Absolutely. So, as we're kind of wrapping this portion up of the Facebook marketing plan, I've kind of got one last point that I kind of want to hear your thoughts and feedback on.
Yeah.
Is, we talk about posting and, how much should we do a day? Some of my, one of our neighbor chambers, I love them to death. I love the team there. They share everything they see on Facebook. And so you go through their Facebook page and there's some days where they have 20 posts. There's a couple days where they have 40 plus posts. I mean, and where do we to be effective marketing through Facebook, where do we kind of draw that line?
That is such a challenging question to answer from the standpoint of how to be effective with Facebook, because Facebook has algorithms that we don't have insight into. So if someone visits our page, right, then hopefully they get to see everything we post, right? But there's no guarantee that Facebook's going to continue to share everything in the same order for everybody that looks at it, right?
Right.
There's also no guarantee that we're going to show up in somebody's news feed on Facebook, right? So where I always take my clients to is do what's comfortable for you with the resources you have now. After you've built that level of comfort, then you step a little bit outside of your comfort zone and you do more after you've looked at your statistics, right? So is there a particular time of day when people are seem to get more traction with what you're posting than others, right? I know that with the chamber, you also have kind of a responsibility to make sure that you help promote the members' businesses, right? And
right, absolutely.
And that can be challenging when, right now the situation that you're in is you're the staff on the chamber right now, right? So there are plans and works to help you get, somebody else in there to help promote these things, but you can't do everything.
And I think one of the things that has been a challenge for me, again, looking at one of our other neighbor chambers, one of their models they use that I like quite a bit is, they have 4 posts a day, 9, 11, 2, and 4. And every once in a while there'll be a couple other things here and there if they're doing a live thing or whatnot. But I mean, that is their time. When to expect it. But you look at that from the aspect of, well, if I'm going to schedule this, then I have to create the content for this and take their picture and tag them in this and do all of this rather than just click the share button.
Yeah.
And if you look at our chamber Facebook page now, you'll see these little pods of 3 or 4 posts that happen between 10 and 10:30, and that may be it you see for the day, And so it's finding the right effective means.
It is, yeah. And it's really going to depend on what you have the time for and what kind of response you get, right? So there's more analysis that can be done, but the first step is always to just start and don't worry about it. Just get it out there. And it's after you're in the habit of getting things out there that then you can do more analysis to figure out what's going to be most effective and efficient for you.
All right. Well, good. That's a great place to start.
It sounds like we're going to have more conversations about this too.
It sounds like it, yes. Absolutely.
So although you wanted to switch the order of website and newsletter in the list of channels, I didn't have slides like that. So we're going to talk briefly about the website next.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let me change the slide here. Okay. And you'll notice really the only thing that changed is website marketing plan, and we don't have a Facebook meme hosted here either. Websites are interesting things as far as keeping them updated for folks. If you're blogging regularly, right, then a blog is an easy way to keep a website up to date. If you have events, then the events are an easy way to keep websites up to date. You don't usually use a website to say, Happy New Year. Right. It's more of an information repository and a way for people to contact the business. So, Clint, how are you currently using the website?
Not very well. No, I'm just kidding. Like I said, our focus has kind of been the newsletters and the Facebook.
Yeah.
And really, I almost don't want to admit this, but being kind of an out of sight, out of mind. The main focus that I work with the website is kind of just, hey, there's your online directory, or I'll help you look up something, whatever the case may be, and then events. But beyond our big events, every little event that's coming up, well, that's hard to go in, and not hard, but it's again another task, another 5 to 10 minutes that, hey, I've got to log in and create this event and tag this group, and and I think that's one that kind of gets dropped off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, everybody has at least one that they drop off, that they know that they want to be doing, as far as having their online marketing channel active. Mm-hmm. And so, it's okay that you know this, right? Because then you can prioritize it when it makes sense to prioritize it.
Absolutely. Well, and a perfect example of that is I actually had one of our platinum members call me and say, hey, why am I not on the website under the platinum members? And I got to looking at it, as of right now, we've got 15 platinum members. But the way our website is designed, that is one of those you have to go into the website builder and add them in and do all this other thing. Well, even though we currently have 15, when this member had called me and asked me about it, I look and we only had 8 listed. So it had been a while since it'd been updated,
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I find really helps both me and my clients to keep track of all this is to have time in our calendars that's actually dedicated to, updating specific tasks. And, for me, a calendar is great, but I have a much more granular calendar that I work with for most of the stuff. I also use spreadsheets for things like my blog posts because I have a whole lot of information I want to capture. So I'll have the blog post in the spreadsheet with all this, but then in the calendar, I'll just say blog, post blog.
Right. And I think that's one thing, getting back to the calendar, it is something that I need to utilize more, because I do have a weekly spreadsheet calendar that I have and that I fill in and work on. But I think one of the biggest challenges, and we all have this as business owners, is as things come up, if something comes up that is hey, we got to get this done, or whatever the case may be, how easy is it to just scratch off the calendar? It's like, oh, don't have time for this, don't have time for this,
Yeah.
And I think one thing that has helped me in the last couple of weeks is strategically adding in, hey, here's a 30-minute block with nothing in there. Adding 2 or 3 of those in a day. That way, if an emergency comes up, then hey, I've got room to jockey around and move things, but still keep on the focus, keep on the plan. And I think again, that's huge. Is keeping a calendar and being, like you said, granular about it. Really focusing.
Yeah, it makes a really big difference, and I love that you're building in space. Because you can't predict everything.
Right. If only there was more of those little spaces I could fit in,
Okay, so that's just kind of high level how you can keep your website going as your marketing, one of your marketing platforms. The next one that you do a really great job with, Clint, is the newsletter. And I know you mentioned that you like to use Constant Contact, and there are lots of options for everybody to use. Some of them are free, some of them require a fee, and Constant Contact is one of the ones that requires a fee.
Well, actually, as a chamber, if depending on your organization structure, as a chamber, that is something we do get for free.
Oh, nice.
And I'd love to mention this as we're getting into this aspect of it. This is a conversation you and I have had for the last 3 or 4 months. We kind of briefly touched on analytics earlier, and sometimes we dive into the analytics of the different things we do and kind of forget the broader picture. Short story, trying to reinvent the wheel, trying to find a better option, looking at, hey, how do we get more opens? How do we get more people looking at our emails? And we tried 3 or 4 different things, and then somebody kind of had a, why are you doing this moment? And for me, of course, an aha moment, and started looking at it. And if you kind of, Google and look, hey, what's the industry standard for the amount of emails being opened? What's your percentage like?
Mm-hmm.
And already with what we were doing with Constant Contact, we were beating some of those numbers. I mean, I would love to have 50%, but at my 30 to 35%, if that's already beating the industry standard, then maybe we need to learn to be content with, and I think that was one of those things that was eye-opening to me in the last couple, months as we've been working through this and trying to figure out these different things. And one of our analytics, that we were looking at, one of the options we tried dropped us all the way down to 10%. And so, I think knowing where the industry is really a good baseline when you start working on things like this.
Yeah. And there are analytics for just about anything.
Absolutely.
About anything.
Well, one thing we look at, obviously besides opens, is clicks, especially if we've got the different buttons and things like that on there. And, that's one of those things we see a lot of opens, but maybe only 5 or 6 clicks. So how do we work on that?
Yeah. What makes something clickable?
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, no, those are really great questions. And I think one of the things that makes newsletter marketing a bit easier for folks is when they schedule it. And I know the newsletter goes out on Fridays for the chamber.
Yes, yeah, we do our weekly. We say newsletter. I mean, really, it's a calendar update, and we do it Friday afternoons is always the baseline. I mean, it's not always 2 o'clock. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's noon, I mean, and we need to tighten that up a little bit, but knowing that Friday afternoon is, hey, this is what you have coming up this weekend and next week. So
yeah. And I think the predictability of it for folks makes it nice,
Absolutely. Well, and we kind of touched on this a little bit also, but besides the weekly calendar emails, we do kind of have that monthly wrap up newsletter, and that comes out like on this picture, that would come out probably Tuesday the 5th. And I say probably because that is not a set in stone, but it's just kind of, like you mentioned earlier, once we get to it, and kind of just wrapping up how the previous month had went. And is there strategically, is there more benefit to having that regular monthly versus the regular weekly?
Well, I think that the weekly is really important because it is a calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I love that. And I enjoy reading the wrap-ups too. So,
right.
So I think that they're both good. And, if you get to the point where you can schedule them and people know when to expect them, right? And so it is always the first Tuesday of the month kind of thing, then it becomes more expected. But over a month time period, is anybody really going to catch on to that besides you for planning? Maybe not.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of ways to look at things. And it really depends on what best serves your customers and your business, right? That's what it always comes back to. And if it becomes, that, and this is just, flinging something out there, so there's nothing carved in stone, we're just chatting.
Right.
If the idea of having something done the first Tuesday of every month is just like, there's no way that's ever going to happen when we have, in September, because we have Founders Day, and that's like our busy crunch time to try to get something out. So, okay, well then that's a reality of your business, right? And it's okay to say, you do what makes sense. You don't have to be draconian about it.
Okay. Well, I think that helps too. Because, I think we want to, again, going back to, we want to stick to the schedule. We want to start getting some routine working, but how do we manage that?
Yeah.
So one big question that I have when it comes to the network or the newsletter, and we've talked about this in the past, but really haven't touched on this lately, is amount of content. Obviously the calendar, we know it's going to be whatever's going on, this is what we're going to put,
Yep.
But when we look at the monthly newsletter, I mean, are we going to have, my message, Beth's message, board members of the month, new members, at what point do we start cutting that off because it's getting too much?
Well, there is a way to do the newsletters where you just kind of tease people with the beginning of what you're offering to have them talk about, and then click link for more, right?
Okay.
Which would then allow you to have the idea of like blog posts on the newsletter for the entire month in review, message from you.
Okay.
The entire month in review and maybe upcoming month from Beth, right? So that you can have all of those things actually available in the newsletter, but then also have the full message available on the website. And this is just a reality check. My husband doesn't know that we're recording something right now. He's trying to say goodbye to me as he takes off for a trip. So I'm going to shift my focus for just a minute to say goodbye to my dear husband, and I'll be right back.
Absolutely. Well, and I'll go ahead and keep talking a little bit too, because one of the other things that we've looked at and talked about is, the monthly newsletter and kind of breaking it up in a sense too. So having your at the beginning of the month having your last month's wrap up with, a couple things, but then 2 weeks later having your, hey, here's your new members that have come in. This is your new members and maybe your board chairman blog,
Yeah.
So it's kind of splitting it up in that sense too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that knowing that you have that flexibility and can promote the other platforms, the other channels, right, is really helpful to help people get used to seeing all the different ways that they can interact.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, yeah, it's building that marketing plan, building that strategy that is so effective, and this is me not saying this from experience, because I've seen it be effective for us at points, but the consistency on our perspective of doing this, and finding again the ebbs and flow of the business and how do we fit things in, but yeah, I mean, we see the success we have when we have this consistent product in place.
Yeah. No, now you guys are getting an idea. I know, Clint, you already knew this about why I love this online marketing so much, because there's just so many fascinating facets, and the way it actually works for every business is just phenomenal. I love seeing things start to get traction and for people to be excited about the marketing that they're doing, as well as their clients and customers interacting with them as a result of the marketing. So
yeah, it's great, and it can be so effective. If you allow it to be effective, it will be.
Yeah. So the newsletter was definitely a meaty topic for us. The
Absolutely.
Next one is the Google My Business. I think every chamber member should have a Google My Business account. It's free. And for people who have heard that if you have a home-based business, you don't want a Google My Business account, that's not true. I work from home and I have a Google My Business account. You can just choose not to show your address. Okay. So that's the big pushback I hear from people about Google My Business. And if you don't know what Google My Business is, if you put in a business's name and on the right column of your desktop, you see a little rectangular box that says this is a business name, these are the hours. Oftentimes there'll be a picture associated with the business. It'll have a link to the website. It'll have reviews. It'll have posts. It'll have all kinds of information specifically about that business. That's what Google My Business is.
Okay.
And it is a wonderful piece of real estate that you need to claim for yourself if you haven't already, because it's free advertising on Google. Google doesn't give away much for free, but it's free advertising for you on Google. And if somebody doesn't know your website, they just type in the name of your business and that pops up. They can get to your website. They can see your hours. They can see all kinds of information very quickly.
And how often do we Google something when we're looking something up? Truth be told, there's been, I know the website obviously, but there's been several times when I'm pulling up the chamber website on my phone, I just Google Red Oak Area Chamber of Commerce, and that's how I get to our website for my phone sometimes.
Yeah.
And so there you go. There's another opportunity if your Google My Business is in place to reach more customers and have more of a professional feeling rather than just hey, there's a list of the websites that we think that it could be that you're looking for.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. The thing about Google My Business, though, is that it does need care and feeding, just like any other online marketing channel. And you can put posts there, right? So you could do a Happy New Year to the Red Oak area, right, on New Year's Day if you wanted. Or you can post questions, what's the most exciting thing y'all are looking forward to with the beginning of the new year, right? So, you can post questions. You can also say, hey, just posted next month's calendar of events. Check it out here, right? And then you're driving people back to the website. Google My Business is also a great place for customers or clients to leave reviews for you. And you'll get positive and negative reviews. Everybody does. Everybody does, right? So if you happen to get a negative review at some point, don't take it to heart. Just respond to it appropriately. And that's what you need to do with every review you get, is you respond to the reviews. Because people want to be heard. If they're reaching out like that, they just want to be heard.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, right or wrong. And you know, of course, I learned that from my days in the restaurant, you know, all the years working at Olive Garden. When people complain about their food, well, I mean, you know, you listen to this much to realize that it was this much. It was the 2 minutes they had to wait to get in the door while they were waiting for a host to come up and say hi to them. You know, it's that kind of thing where you know, you do want to improve and you do want to find ways, but you kind of have to go through that whole process of hearing the whole story, you know?
Yeah. And that's just it. So that's where Google My Business actually can provide you more information than you get from a lot of the other platforms, because it is kind of a forum for folks. So it can be helpful.
Well, and not in some ways kind of an anonymous forum, because you know, you can kind of see that on the social media aspect. An example that I almost hate to bring up, but you know, when we talked about all the businesses that were broke into last week, you know, I posted about it, said, hey, let's go out and support these businesses who are struggling right now, that, you know, had their doors busted in, and how do we support them? And of course, I had some people that popped on and said things like, well, the police station's right across the street. What happened? You know, and I mean, you saw a couple of those, but of course their name is attached to it, and you can click on them and see who they are and where they live and yada, yada, yada. And so you don't see that as much on Facebook. You know, on Google, that's where people would more, you know, get out there and say, hey, this is how I feel about this. This is what's going on. And so I think that does provide a lot more value in a sense.
Yeah, you know, and every platform has its purpose when it comes to marketing your business, right? And it's just a matter of choosing which ones are most effective for your business, right? So, you know, honestly, at this point, Google My Business is, you know, understandably on the back burner for the chamber. It's on the back burner for me too, right? Me personally. And that's okay. You know, it's just, we'll both know when it's time to activate it. Right?
Well, and interestingly enough, you know, I'd mentioned I didn't know a whole lot about it leading into this, you know, and just even something you said, having the links for the calendar and whatnot. I mean, maybe that's a good outlet. Having that going in, there's my once a week check on Google My Businesses is attaching our calendar to it. So,
yeah. And it would be, you know, a great way for people to find out more about the chamber.
Absolutely. And that's the name of the game. That's what we're looking for. So.
Well, okay. So that was the 4 main things. And there's always more to be done. I think we said that a bazillion times in this conversation today, Clint, is there's always more to be done. And I know we're kind of running over time. So although I do have slides in here for workspace for us, you know, to talk about other topics, I think that if you're agreeable, I think that we've provided enough information for people to kind of get to the point where they can feel confident, at least doing a preliminary, you know, let's get things rolling kind of marketing plan, and maybe even have some ideas for how they can tweak one if they've already got a marketing plan. What do you think?
Absolutely. And you know, we talked about a little bit on the onset, but you know, not being so one-dimensional, whether it just be Facebook or just be emails. It's finding those different directions, those different avenues that can provide value. Yeah, we know the businesses do have an ebb and flow naturally of when they're going to be able to do things, but you know, that is kind of leads to the intentionality of it too. You know, we want our businesses to grow. We want our businesses to thrive. Well, we have to be intentional in planning that, whether that be, you know, set out calendar time to make sure we do this every week, or set out, you know, whatever the case may be. But I think this provided some great information. Obviously, the front half, you know, great information, just going through it. But then, you know, beyond that, you know, I know we kind of talked about time. Hey, how long do we want to shoot for? Well, we almost doubled it. You know, we're doing good. But I mean, that was such a great organic conversation of, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we can work on. This is things that we can improve upon. And I think that will really provide a lot of relevance to the folks that are watching this. Is you can kind of see real world application of how these items. Hey, we've been working on this, but this is how we enhance it, or this is how we include it more. And I think you know, this is definitely going to provide a lot of value to those that get to watch this.
Excellent. I'm so glad to hear that. And I also want to let folks know that if they'd like to reach out to me, that I am available, and this is my contact information. If you have questions about online marketing, or you just want to run something by me, please reach out. I'd be happy to support you.
Absolutely. And Dr. Karen Finn, you know, obviously for those of you that are watching this, you understand this is her area of expertise. This is her, you know, her lot in life in a sense, you know. But this is really great. I mean, this is such great information. You know, we talked about a lot of things, but you know, if you're looking at a marketing plan and trying to build your business and different things like that, why not work with an expert, you know, like Dr. Karen Finn? And KJ Content Marketing, of course, has been a member of the chamber now for a year and a half now, almost 2 years. I mean,
almost 2 years now.
Almost 2 years. Yeah, it's getting close. About almost the same amount tenure that I've been here at the chamber office as well. And obviously, you can see the value that this has. This is not something that needs to be taken lightly. You know, your business needs to have a great marketing plan going forward, and you know, going with a professional is sometimes the best way to go. You know, you can come up with some ideas, but until you talk to somebody and bounce them off and figure out how it's going, then, you know, maybe that's the best course of action to take. So I encourage you all, if you like this chat we had today, definitely reach out to Dr. Karen Finn. Tell her about how much you enjoyed this, and, you know, how KJ Content Marketing can help your business moving forward. That's about all I have. This is one of the things I want to definitely highlight. Is this is kind of the first for us. We are starting at the Red Oak Chamber, kind of going down the rabbit hole of the educational aspect. And this is kind of our first educational piece that we're starting. And we want this to continue. We want to grow business. We want to support business, and providing educational opportunities on how to improve your business is extremely important to that. And that's why we are starting this program. And frankly, I don't think we could have gotten started any better. So from the bottom of my heart, I definitely want to say thank you so much for working with us today. And Karen, I'll actually leave the last word with you.
Well, thank you so much, Clint. It's been a huge honor to be the guinea pig for our educational content. You know, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. I truly believe that the chamber has a wonderful opportunity to serve the members and help them to be successful and really grow the community. So thank you for letting me be the first.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and sign off today, but we look forward to seeing y'all and talking to y'all soon. We do have some more educational opportunities working kind of along this same lines. Our plan for Q1 of 2021 is talking more about kind of getting back to the basics. You know, we talked about some marketing today. We're going to bring in some finance, some accounting, and some different strategic things that we can do just kind of in the onset, and how to get your business back to the basics in a sense. So that's where we're going to start. Folks, thank you very much, and look forward to